Adine. Why, hello. It is I, the real Randy Chavez, coming at you today with Crypto Rain. Everyone say hello to Dashi. Hello, Dashi. And you got back from NFT NYC a couple days ago?
Yes. Yeah, that was a great time.
Yeah, did you stay Friday as well?
Yeah, Friday night. So, yeah, I mean, coming in from New York takes you a long time to get to where you're going. No. We went to the airport a little bit early, so we didn't hit like all kinds of traffic getting there. Can you imagine? Well,
yeah, New York. Yeah, that tends to be hard, especially in the city. It's so bad trying to get anywhere. Like it takes. I mean, it's not as bad as LA, but yeah, it takes like 45 minutes to go like 3 miles. It's like you run faster. So.
Yeah, Dr. Stuff, who couldn't join us, he really wanted to, and shout out to him. Him going with me, that was a lot of fun. Just talking to him endlessly. He's been to New York a number of times, and he said it wasn't as crowded as it usually is. He was just shocked because I don't know, the last couple of years they've had a population loss. So I don't know about you, but I enjoyed that it wasn't as packed as it sometimes is in general, and it was a lot of fun. I didn't realize how fun New York City would be.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's kind of. I mean, I'll go there for dinners every now and then, but a lot of times I really go just for like New York Comic Con or if there's like a big event at Madison Square Garden. But yeah, it wasn't as crowded as it usually was, and like I said, it was pretty decent weather we had. Also, a little chilly for June, which I was okay with. Mm-hmm. But so apparently a bunch of people came back and they got the Rona. I tested myself. I'm okay. But yeah, are you feeling okay? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I've caught it before at least once.
Yeah, same.
So I've got a little bit of immunity, but I'm feeling good. Yeah, I probably would start feeling something by now if I'd caught it.
Yeah. So while I was there, I couldn't really pay much attention or make so many videos about Ecomi or VV and all that. But my God, the whales have come in. People are not selling. We've had a decent pump both in VV and OMI. Is this okay? Is it okay for me to FOMO? I mean, at this point, it is still below 0.002, but you think it's like a bull trap and thinking like, okay, get them in now before Bitcoin goes down, and we see back 0.0011 again.
Yeah, it's possibly a bull trap. I don't know. I do want to pick up a lot more than I have, and I don't have as much OMI as you do. I'm diversified across like literally 200 projects. OMI is one of my larger holdings, but not even my largest holding. There was one that I gave. They give me a 30% bonus. So I put in close to $500,000 if you count in the bonus. And I just think, man, if I had known OMI was going to go down to like 0.11 cents, I would have like just set that on the sidelines, right?
Yeah.
Man, can you imagine the kind of fun with OMI tokens you putting then about close to $400,000 into OMI tokens. Oh well.
Do you swing trade, or is it just I'm a buy and hold guy?
No, so I swing trade. I don't day trade at all. I tried my hand at that as the bull market was starting to take off, and I just didn't like the stress of it. Oh my gosh. And I did a little bit when I was new, like everyone does, right? And you're just trying to, because we all start in the space with like not having a lot of money in. I have the advantage of being in here for 4 years, right? And so when you're new, you're just trying to grow your position so much. So you're trying everything you can. And I found I like to hold for periods. So, and sometimes you have swings like with the OMI token. I was buying it on the whole swing down from when it hit 1.4 cents, buying it on that whole swing down because I have a large OMI position that I have no idea where it is. It's in some GoChain wallet. I did think of another idea of where I can check over the weekend. Maybe I can find it, that I invested in their pre-sale back in 2018. So it's in one of my GoChain wallets that, gosh, we'll see if I can find that. Probably it's lost for forever. And that just means there's actually less circulating supply than people think.
Yeah, the burn. We have in the reserve vault, we have gone over 60 billion burned, which is pretty nice. And we have over 350 million gems that have gone into the app. What's your make on things trading as far as whether it's EBITDA or whether it's cost of sales? Like we have less than a $400 million market cap. but we have had $350 million go into the app. But again, less than $400 million for the token. I imagine things like Sandbox, where people have spent X amount of money on the game, there is a reflection that's not as much or not nearly as much as the Sand token. Same thing with Decentraland and Mana.
Yeah, a lot of people who invest in collectibles in the app don't really think about the OMI token. And so it's not a one-to-one correlation of people in the app versus OMI token holders. I think for two reasons. Number one, right now, it seems like it's so far away. And funny enough, people don't buy things when they're cheap. So the fact that it's been going down, people are just like, I'll get it later. And then when it starts going crazy, then you'll have a lot of people who are collectible collectors. They're like, oh my gosh, I need to get some. I've just been stocking it up because at some point we'll be able to stake it on the app and it will affect our master collector points. So, and I think it's going to do really well. The token, I think it's vastly undervalued. I mean, who knew, even though it's gone up now and I don't know what the price is right at the moment, I could take a look at that.
It's 0.0015.
Gosh, yeah, it blew past some resistance. Here, I can share my screen, or maybe I can. There we go. Share.
You should be able to share it, and then I can add it to the stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Let's get this bread. All right.
So what's interesting is it blasted right through this, right? So we had this descending trend here.
Yeah.
And then often it comes back down from this. Notice this candle went all the way to 0.16, and then it's coming back down. And often it'll form another leg down like this. But so it's broken this trend. That doesn't mean it's not going to continue downward, though. It might. But if it's likely to at least come down a little bit higher than where this hit before, even if it's making a reversal pattern. So it often looks like a W, and it looks like something like this. So it'll go like this, and then it'll come down not quite as low. And then it'll come up to there. It'll come right down to the neckline, and then it will go off to the races if this is the bottom. And that's because probably the greater crypto market is at least a couple months away from a turnaround. As much as we all want it to happen sooner, there's what we want and there's what really happens.
Mm-hmm. So you even think that this type of like it'll happen that quickly, just in a couple months? Like we wouldn't have to wait until after we're kind of out of the recession and after a government tries to pump money in and lower interest rates?
Yeah. So if you think about the power of the utility that still isn't there, but will be. So I was here, came in 2017, late October 2017. The market was going crazy, and it went crazy for the next 2 months. And then it had this big pullback. What's interesting is during the whole crypto winter, from the height of that market, there was a token that went from $6 at the height of 2017 to $18 at the end of the crypto winter. So they tripled while everything else got savaged and destroyed. That token was BNB, the Binance token. So at the time, Binance was a new exchange that was adding a lot of tokens and getting a lot of traffic. And they had a token that the only utility at the time was if you held BNB in your account and you set it to withdraw trading fees from that rather than from your actual trade, you got a discount. That was their only utility. Yeah. Then they decided to add some additional utility that you need to stake BNB tokens in order to get into their launches on their platform. So they developed the Binance Launchpad. In order to get those, you had to stake the BNB token. And so all of a sudden they gave it additional utility, which caused it to go up even during a recession. So what's funny is we might be very near lows that are just never reached again, even if the bear market happens and continues for another year to 2 years. And I know a lot of people are calling for like a 2-year bear market. I just don't see it playing out that way with crypto.
Yeah.
Stocks, maybe. Real estate, long bear market, because real estate swings. It's been going up for 10 to 12 years. When it swings downward, it's a long time. Stock's been swinging up for 10 to 12 years, so they have a bigger correction. Crypto, really never hit a blow off top. It had a very muted bull run.
Yeah.
I think because of the macro things. There's another thing with accounting practices on how it's accounted for that crypto is accounted for, specifically Bitcoin, so that corporations didn't buy as much.
That's what I wanted to ask you about as well. You had something that you told me about in February. Tell me about the accounting magic that people do and refuse to buy Bitcoin because of that magic.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll go into that in a bit. Definitely a big thing that other people will notice. See, I guess accountants and CFOs are already aware of this announcement. Most of the general public isn't talking about this because they don't think about these kind of things. But you'll hear Michael Saylor, who is a Bitcoin fanatic, talk about this. And it is affecting the crypto market. And what's cool about Bitcoin is Bitcoin goes up. That brings then a lot of money into the space that then filters to other things. So it will have a big effect for Bitcoin. The OMI token is interesting. If we go back to the chart, it was doing this W pattern. If you can pull that back up just for a second, you see this bigger W pattern that it was kind of staying within until we just got savaged by another drop. But I do think this is supposed to be a bigger W pattern that only went to these lower lows because the general market got pushed so much. But the OMI token shouldn't be this cheap, and yet it is. And there's a bunch of utility coming that people aren't thinking about. So prior to crypto, I did real estate investment for like 25 years. And the last 8 years, I worked as a negotiator for buying undervalued properties. And then we would bring the value to, basically we would buy homes and buildings that were just broken down. They had a lot of problems with it. We would correct those problems and then sell them for full retail, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people complain. They're like, oh my gosh, when money transmitter license, when can I withdraw money? When this, when that? Oh my gosh, I'm not going to invest until all those things happen. And it's like, wait. Do you like buying low or buying high? Because your strategy is leading you to buy high. I like to buy things when there's still lots of problems that aren't taken care of. Take a look at the roadmap that okay, they're working on these things. These things will get done, or most likely will get done, while it's still cheap and everyone's flooding on it, and then hold till like they're doing great. And then like that's how investment works. You can't wait till all those things are done and then buy and expect cheap prices. It just doesn't happen that way. Yeah. But a lot of people are new to investing, right? So they just don't understand that part of it. That's why I'm explaining and sharing it with them. And a lot of people on this stream probably get that already.
Yeah, a little bit. For the most part, I don't want to say like I get lucky or just get hooked on a feeling there, but it's just kind of taking a look, trying to read the writing on the wall where the future is going, and that really worked with Tesla. It really worked with a lot of, if you follow money, where Pokemon cards go, and if there's a chance that NFTs never get mass adoption. I'm pretty sure that's false because NFTs I feel like are the way of the future. Even Henry Pagliuca, who's also a real estate agent, says like, in like 5 years, most of his job will be done with NFTs. They'll be for deeds of the house and sale of the house, because you can't really, you can't go and say, hey, you can't commit fraud and put something into Nitro and edit it and say like, oh, hey, here's my paperwork. You can't do that on the blockchain. You can only do that with documents that are still done by email, but on the blockchain, it's right there. So these are probably going to be the future. And I was talking to a lot of people on Friday, a lot of VCs and a lot of funders, and they didn't know about the first Superman or Spider-Man or Batman on the blockchain, and some of them like lost their minds. Like, what, really?
Yeah, it's such a big deal, right? What's funny is I started my YouTube channel in like December a year and a half ago, and I was covering crypto projects that I felt like were undervalued. And then in early March, I covered this project called Veve. And this Todd McFarlane Batman, that was the first Batman on the blockchain. It was still available for sale on the app. And a lot of my viewers, like, they comment in the section, hey, get back to the real stuff. Stop covering this NFT shiz, and whatever, right? And what's funny is I kept covering it, but I was like, wow, what a visceral reaction. What do they not get about this? Like, this is going to be huge. I mean, DC intellectual property, the first Batman on the blockchain. Are you kidding me? And so, of course, it went from $80 to like then 500, and then it retraced to 200, and then it went up to 1200, and then it retraced for a little bit, then went all the way to 16,000, outperforming just about any coin out there, right? And they're like, oh yeah, well, if you bought one, you know, you only made like 2,000. It's like, why would you just buy one? Like $80, that's beer money. That's like pizza with friends money, right? Like, are you kidding? Why would you just buy one? Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't buy like 100 of them like some really smart people did.
Yeah. I messed up. You can see when you opened your wallet, like if you go to the gem transactions, it'll say account opened on your first transaction. It was like February 27th, 2021. And I didn't buy anything until April of that year because I looked at it. I was like, I'm not too sure about this yet, you know, and then I just kept covering Earth 2. And oh man, if I would have, oh God, I'd be so freaking rich right now. But I still did fairly well on that anyway. Yeah, I don't know if you put any OMI into the app, but it does take maybe about 5 minutes or so for it to show up once you transfer it from wherever you have it. Have you done it?
I haven't put any OMI in the app yet. I'm just waiting. There's no two-factor authentication on the app. Yeah. Like I want Google Authenticator or something, right? Because YouTubers are always a target for SIM swap hacks. And so I just don't want any of my wealth under something that a simple SIM swap can give them access to, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, I haven't. And I'm sure they'll come out with it, and it's okay. Like, so I'm just waiting before I transfer OMI over there.
Do you have the Ecomi secure wallet?
No. I
don't have that either. I've been trying. They just, whenever they get it in the store, they sell out really quickly. But yeah, so I know we were talking about buying it, and I think Gary V had touched on this recently about NFTs and government regulation, saying that there would be people that are going to have that maybe government doesn't understand crypto or NFTs, and maybe lobbyists might have to make laws that are really vague and give the SEC like a wiggle room, which we really don't want. So I think Gary V would probably have, I think him and the head of Cardano, I think, are doing this really awesome thing. They're saying, hey, here's a software that you guys can use for regulation. What do you think about government regulatory practices coming in?
Yeah, hopefully, like, so regulation, I think, should be thought of like traffic lights. So the best regulation is light, and it just tells people when it's red, when it's red, don't go. When it's yellow, slow down, be cautious, and when it's green, go. So there's two different types of thoughts in Washington, right? One thought is we need to control this, and there's power in control. And so some want to make thousands and thousands of pages of regulation. The reason they want thousands and thousands of pages of regulation is in order to get anything done, you have to come lobby them. And lobbying them includes campaign contributions and other things. The other thought is, hey, unleash the free market on this and just put in simple regulations. So unfortunately, a lot of those that are in power right now tend to be in the first part, that they want to regulate the heck out of it because they love the power. There's no power in having to say yes. The power comes in the ability to say no, and no by default, and they have to lobby you to get to yes. So I think there's going to be a lot of freshman congressmen coming in, possibly even some senators that are younger. They're not corrupted by the gangrene in Washington yet. And hopefully they're more on the side of light regulation. So you have to come to them to get to yes. It's automatically a yes if things are within certain reasonable guidelines. And then if you're pushing the limits on it, it might start out as a no, and you have to come to them and explain what you're doing to get a yes. That's what I hope occurs. And I don't see that happening with the current politicians in it. A lot of them, sometimes when a bunch of politicians lose their seats is when they all kind of get real and try to get back to being in touch with what is on people's minds. Now, the Biden administration, I was surprised with their really good letter that they put out about crypto, and they recognized that like over 15% of Americans hold crypto in one form or another, and that many of them are single issue voters. So that was really cool and heartening that the Biden administration had some research done on that. And, at least they were aware And so that's good. I mean, Mike Novogratz was a big proponent of Biden when he was running and said that Biden's administration would be pretty pro crypto. I think all of us been kind of surprised by how Biden has actually been in office, which is very different than the Biden, we've known for 50 years or whatever he's been in office. There's been actually some pro crypto parts in his White House and some other voices that aren't so pro crypto, like Janet Yellen.
Yeah. We don't like her. We don't. I mean, any chairman of the Federal Reserve, I tend to dislike, as they print money out of thin air and devalue our currency. But,
I would say I wouldn't dislike all of them, but just note that Janet Yellen's received like millions and millions of dollars in speaking fees for speaking over Zoom to things, and those speaking fees at that level have to come with strings.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, give an hour talk over Zoom to our people, and here's millions of dollars. Yeah. Tell me there aren't strings attached to that.
Agreed. So I think that, depending on how much OMI gets burned, and depending on how much actually flows into the crypto space at large, I think that Ecomi probably might even crack the top 10 in the next bull run around 2024, 2025. What about yourself?
Yeah, what's funny is, so when I first started covering OMI in like February, I think 2021, the Ecomi's token was taking on meme coin status, even though like the promise was utility. Like, it was amazing how many people that their first purchase in crypto really was Bitcoin, but Bitcoin to then be able to buy OMI. And I was just shocked at the power it has to take on a life of its own. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see it hit top 10, even well into the top 10 for a little bit because of that power. I mean, we've seen it before. It just had gone up so much that it went up like 1,000x to hit 1.4 cents from its bottom. And so it just needs some retracement for a while to build momentum to be able to push up again. And so we've seen that. Plus, there was vesting. I remember the pitch when they made their pre-sale pitch in 2018. They're like, we're going to have our team's tokens locked up for like 3 years and this and that, which is important. But that 3 years came up, right? So all those team tokens had to be unlocked, and that puts sell pressure on it. As far as I'm aware, all the team members have gotten all their tokens now. So those that are going to sell, they've sold some of them. Maybe they're holding some for when prices get better again, but a lot of that sell pressure is gone. And so it's building up all this momentum. Think about holding a beach ball underwater, and the farther you push it down, the more it's pushing back to go back up. And that's some of what we're seeing. I don't know what caused the pump in collectibles all of a sudden. I do think everything was undervalued, and some people just like started pulling the trigger, and green candles create more green candles often, because people get a little bit of FOMO. I've had to resist the FOMO myself. I was happy picking up common and uncommon Vader for like 120 gems a piece. And then they went to like 200 for the commons and 180 for the uncommon. I'm like, man, I still don't have enough of those. So I guess, I'm hopeful it'll come back down a little bit and that the OMI token will come back. Because isn't it fair to say we all want more OMI token before the real one happens? Like, come on. It didn't break under a tenth of a cent, but still at like 0.11 was
pretty close.
So cheap, right? So cheap.
I don't know if we get back there again. I know David and Dan haven't sold any of their tokens. The other people of the team, they have at some point, and that's sloshed around. Whales are buying it up a decent amount. A bunch of their buy orders though really were set for 0.000 like 98, 97, 95. They never got it just because it's kind of gone up for a little while. I don't know if we get there again. At this point, I don't think it matters by 0.0015 or 11 or even 18 or 19. I will get more before San Diego Comic-Con. I think that's going to be a very big catalyst. Jay Solo says, what do you think will be the best OMI utility to moon us? Says Sean Gill.
Yeah, those are great questions. Thanks for the question, Sean. So there's a couple utilities as I see it. You'll be able to do things with your OMI token possibly in the app. Well, I don't know. I guess that's a little bit unclear. But the biggest one being that you can stake it for master collector status, right? And there's different levels that you can stake at. And it hasn't really hit people because it's not in practice yet. But when it does, you will start seeing people that have no OMI yet buying OMI. Well, what's that going to do? It's going to put buy pressure on there. Well, if there's no then equivalent sell pressure, what does that do to the price? It starts jacking it up real quick. And what's funny is it starts going up. Those that are willing to sell, all of a sudden second guess their willingness to sell. And they're like, I'm just going to hold it longer. And so that's usually what reverses the trend. And we start seeing it climb upwards. Yeah. And so that's why I think even if we're in it for a longer bear market, which I don't think we are, I think we have a reversal in 6 to 8 months, if not sooner. Even if we do have this long bear market, that doesn't mean OMI won't do well in the middle of a bear market.
Yeah, agreed. I don't know how long it lasts. I don't know how long we have that for. But you were mentioning the before Bitcoin and February and their whole thing. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So, okay. There's a crazy thing happening in the accounting guidelines that corporations have to follow, right? So I graduated in business school, went to work for what used to be an accounting firm, and they had a consulting arm branch. The consulting arm broke off, and that consulting arm was called Accenture, and they split off the main accounting. It was one of the big 6 or whatever accounting firms at the time, and was a consulting company. Accenture did business consulting, but I graduated from the business school under the accounting department in management information systems. So I had to take a bunch of accounting classes and everything, and stuff you wouldn't necessarily think about is how corporations have to classify Bitcoin if they do buy it, if they're publicly traded. So if they're publicly traded, they have to follow a certain set of accounting guidelines of how to count things on their books. So right now, under those classifications, if you hold Bitcoin, it's classified, I think, as an indefinite intangible asset. Think of like a Charizard. Essentially, the accounting practices want you to classify it the same as you would a Charizard. Yeah. And I have no idea what Charizards are going for these days, but we'll use Bitcoin as an example. And let's say a corporation bought Bitcoin when it was 50,000, just for round numbers. Yeah. And then it drops down to 20,000. And then it takes off and it goes all the way up to 200,000. Well, guess which of those 3 prices, either their purchase price, the lowest price, or what it's presently worth, they have to reflect it as on their books.
And so it's got to be the highest?
No.
Oh, it's going to be the
lowest price since they purchased it. Not even their purchase price. So imagine they went big and they put $100 million into Bitcoin, right? Mm-hmm. So then they have to show that 100 million as being worth, at the $20,000 point of Bitcoin versus say it's presently at 200,000. So it actually looks like it's 1/10 of the actual present value on the books. Guess what's happening to that chief finance officer?
Probably going to get fired.
Yeah. Right. So is the CFO going to decide to do that? Now they can, in their accounting thing, have this big long explanation that's like 3 pages and say, well, it's really worth this. The present value is this, but because of accounting practices, we have to list this. And this is what Michael Saylor is doing, right? Yeah. But everyone who's buying Michael Saylor's company is very aware of Michael Saylor's stance on this, and they realize that. And so they'll actually read like the clarifications and stuff. But if your primary thing is something else, you don't want to have to mess up your books and your like year-end results and stuff, or your quarter-end results by putting this big clarification on. You just don't buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You might have gold, you might have other things, but you don't have Bitcoin, not only for the lack of regulatory clarity, but also for that massive reason.
Yeah. I would have thought it would have been opposite, and people would have liked it low. So it's like, oh, we can now claim a loss on our stuff and we don't have to pay as much taxes. But you're saying it's the complete opposite because it doesn't look good for their doesn't look for their quarterly results.
Yeah, so there's this article, and Dr. Stuff forwarded this to me. Accounting rules will be developed for crypto assets, FASB says. Now, the FASB, I think, determines the generally accepted accounting principles, which is what most U.S. publicly traded companies and many others use as kind of the guidelines for how things are accounted. So in order for that to be changed, the FASB would need to change it. Well, they announced that they're going to meet next February to go over specifically this, because the classification for it is just incorrect for what it really is. It shouldn't have to be classified as that. In the early days, they just didn't know how volatile Bitcoin would, like, what it would be, right? So I think they had it categorized as that just because it was super risky in the early days. It's much less risky now, even though it's volatile. It's much less risky than it was back then. So it needs a classification update specific for crypto assets. And so that's a big thing for institutional adoption. I think that's part of what cut us short from the bigger blow off top that we should have had this cycle. And maybe it's just an elongated cycle, and we'll still, that blow off top is coming maybe 3 or 4 months time. We'll see.
So you think that blow off cycle could start before we get that new ruling in February, the new accounting rules?
Yeah. You'll see a lot of corporations realize that that's coming, especially the more sure they feel on the direction of what that will be, because probably they're having a lot of conversations with the FASB right now. And so they'll have an idea of where that will probably go, and they'll start buying in advance of it.
So you think if this happens to change hands, and let's say everything flip-flops and we get a whole new slew of congressmen and senators in, and suddenly, Biden doesn't have a major majority, and do you think that February ruling would still probably hold?
So it's not a politician so much as a panel of appointed accounting experts.
Okay.
So it's not so like that'll have no actual change on this.
Okay.
Whatsoever.
So it really won't matter. It's just as the news kind of gets spread more and more, and then.
Yeah, and I think the politicians that are likely to come in, whether they're Democrat or Republican, are much more likely to be pro-crypto. It's a lot of the politicians that have been around for a long time that maybe have received large bits of contributions from banks over the years, specific banks that don't want crypto to happen because they're not positioned well in it yet. That are most likely to be anti-crypto. I think most of the people that will be coming in will be pro-crypto. And we'll see what we saw in South Korea, right? South Korea's previous president or whatever they call him there was pretty anti-crypto. The two candidates that were running to replace him were trying to outdo each other for who would be more pro-crypto, realizing that there's a lot of crypto people that are single issue voters. They're like, I don't care about the rest of your politics. Got to be friendly to crypto or you're not getting my vote. I don't care, Democrat, Republican, Green Party, whatever.
That's so interesting, because I feel like back in the day, it used to be like the one issue voters. It was like abortion, or it was the environment, or it was gun laws, which I assume a lot of people still are. But that's so interesting to see that a lot of people are one issue voters on crypto now.
Yeah, there are a bunch, right? And what you are seeing is, so crypto is kind of a libertarian type thing, which is like, look, whether you're for the government and a lot of things or think government should be like an itsy bitsy spider, a lot of people are saying, we just don't trust you with the monetary system. And for a long time, throughout all of history, the government was the most trustable source to run currency. Imagine if you had, and much as I'm for private enterprise, I'm not for private enterprises having a monopoly, because they're even worse than an elected constitutional republic government, right? Much worse, because it's kind of like a tyranny. So I like the free market, but I don't like any one company to have that. So we had to trust the government to run currencies. And there's a reason why every fiat currency since the beginning of time, within a couple hundred years, has burned itself out, because the current politicians essentially borrow from the future by spending more than they have. And since Nixon took the U.S. off the gold standard, that has been unleashed to a crazy degree. And so somebody asked Obama what one of his greatest regrets was. And he's like, I regret that we didn't spend even more, right? Because whatever administration, whether you're Democrat or Republican, it's like, well, So you're creating problems down the road, but it doesn't impact you immediately. And so the incentives are completely misaligned there. But prior to blockchain, there was no ability to have something else govern that you could halfway trust. And what I like about the blockchain is then code becomes the law.
Yeah.
And so that money can be out of the hands of the politicians, and essentially the politicians can't devalue your wealth. So imagine you worked really, really hard. You're an immigrant to the U.S. and you worked your whole life. You worked 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, and half days on the other 2 days. And then you accumulated $10 million and you had it in the bank. Well, so the true inflation rate's about 25%. I know that they're giving a much lower number. It's this little trick politicians do where they change the way things are being accounted for, and so that it changes the statistics. So the true inflation rate, you're feeling it in your groceries, and you see bread go up by 30%, and you see all these other things go up by 30%. So, I mean, let's not lie to people and tell them the inflation rate is 8%. It's much closer to 25 to 30%. And so that $10 million they had accrued, well, has just been devalued by 20 or 30%. Why? Because they had it in fiat. And so it's punishing those that are holding their money, their wealth in fiat currency. So,
yeah, I had, I used to make a lot of sandwiches, and deli meat turkey was maybe like $7-8 a pound, and now it's like $14 a pound. Like, what is going on? But yeah, I don't trust governments to do this at all. Like, Russia just announced that their central bank plans to develop a roadmap for introduction of a digital ruble by Q4 of next year. And like any government that's doing it, like there's no way that citizens are going to go to a country, have to pay tax or pay that fee to transfer from one currency to their own currency, have that tracked by the government. Only it just makes no sense. That this governments will not work.
No, and China's leading. China was pretty sneaky, right? So they're like, yeah, we love blockchain and everything. We want a lot of development coming to blockchain. And Polkadot bet big a lot on China, right? And a lot of developers and stuff were out of China. And then the government's like, just kidding. We're so glad you guys got so much experience. We're banning crypto now. And all you with development experience, we're going to have you work on our, public, what is it? Central bank digital currency. And, we're going to roll this out and we're going to rule the world with it. Like, I don't know about you, but I do not want to touch a digital yuan because the Chinese government tracks everything, right? So it's they'll know when you bought a candy bar on such and such day. They'll know everything. They'll know if you bought a certain magazine, or whatever. And then they'll tell your mom about it. And then you're like, oh, I didn't want to have that conversation with mom, but now I have to, right? So,
so that's another thing that I've been very curious about how VV would handle in the VV-verse, like the adult content that they wouldn't necessarily put out, but people that have their houses in the VV-verse, they like, hey, come here and, pay me 20 gems and it's an all-you-can-see type of buffet. How do you think are they going to make like an 18, like, hey, you can't go in here unless you're 18 plus? And how do they track the people that do that? Because that would be an invasion of privacy if they kind of go in and see what's going on in people's houses. They're private.
That's a good question. I haven't thought of it all about how they deal with it, and I didn't even think of that possibility. But
that was the first thing I thought of.
So I just wrong time period. I'm not aware of what is that called? OnlyFans. Yeah. And my 17-year-old, he broke up with this girl, and she just sent him her OnlyFans site because she's 18. I'm like. So I guess OnlyFans been a little bit on my mind. All I saw was the thumbnail. I was like, oh, that's terrible. Yeah. Oh my gosh, So yeah, an OnlyFans inside the VV-verse. I hadn't thought of that. Who knows? Should they let people do inside what they're going to do? Probably if it's within the laws, I would imagine that they do. If it's outside the laws, probably they'll find ways to try to stop that. It's hard when you create a multiverse or a metaverse. So we'll see how they deal with that. They finally did a great job getting rid of the bots. That's been nice. Isn't it exciting being able to get drops again?
Yeah, except this morning I was coming. So I sparred for the first time this morning in a really long time, doing some boxing, and I guess I got hit in the head. I was like, oh, I got nothing going on. Let me watch the rest of the boys that I haven't seen. Let me watch, and I just completely forgot about the drop. And it was Stitch, and I missed it. And I am quite salty about that. Did you get the drop this morning?
Yeah, I got a secret rare, which is worth like 120 gems. Woohoo! I haven't gotten a secret rare in so long. So I swear they skew it towards people who are new getting the higher drops. Because Dr. Stuff and I were talking about this. Like, this one person, like, yes, I got 3 secret rares of the comic books. They're like, they got 3 comic books and they got secret rares on all 3 of them. I'm like, what the heck? They're like, I'm new to the app, and I'm like, 3, like, whenever, if I'm able to get multiples on like a comic book drop, they're like common. Like,
Yeah.
secret rares. Well, that is good for them. I hope they don't have some kind of algorithm in there and it's just blind luck that way, because just make it fair for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Whether they're new or not, give them the same chances of everyone. Just because, well, rewarding new people like that is kind of cool in one way, but also at the same time, just keeping it fair to your existing users who's been loyal. So I don't know if there's any kind of stuff in there. Sometimes I wonder if there is.
I think
getting a secret rare again.
I think if there is, that would be fixed as, pretty much everyone's got like the web app now, so they can go and eventually they'll be like, okay, now that we can initiate the queue, and 1/3 of the drops will go to people in the queue, 1/3 will go from people that spend OMI, 1/3 will go to people that have MCP points. I got pretty lucky this morning in that I was able to find uncommon number 69 over on the
Nice.
I found it on the market. It wasn't like at the bottom. I think the uncommons are going for like $20, and this I got for 180. So it was less than 10x the price, and then it was a special mint number. So
what a score!
Yeah,
that's awesome. Now I'm not I didn't watch Lilo and Stitch a little bit. Like, it came out, I think I was in the military and I was off doing grown-up stuff before I reverted back to my younger kid, which probably. I'm much less mature today than I was in my early 20s when I was doing stuff like that. I actually gave up video games for about 10 years of my life. And I decided, okay, I worked hard. I'm not giving up video games and all the stuff I enjoyed as a kid. I'm reverting back to that. But so I missed out on Lilo and Stitch a lot and stuff. So I don't have like that emotional attachment there that like some of the earlier stuff I would have. But I did participate in the drop and asked my wife to as well. She got an uncommon, so we had a really good day.
Oh, that was a good day. Good for you guys.
No commons today. That was awesome.
Yeah. So this morning, Veve had tweeted out a bunch of stuff about the drop, and then they have a Rewind Collective AMA with Amar Singh over on Tuesday or I think Wednesday. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Tuesday. And they have Pride dropping on Wednesday, but I didn't hear anything about a partnership with Apple. Did you hear about that?
No.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything. I mean, I think there's a lot of speculation, and I think Non-Fungible Wonderful did a speculation video about the a new Apple AR glasses that might come out next year, and maybe they're going to have the announcement, but there's been nothing concrete, I don't think. Cold Tea, if there is, like, link it down below or something, and then we'll take a look at it. But yeah, if they did, that would have been amazing. But I guess speculation. I guess we could speculate a little bit. You remember how Apple had it came out with an iPhone a few years ago, and then it happened to have the U2 album on there randomly, just downloaded. Yeah. Do you think that they could do something like that, saying, hey, if everyone that buys this new Apple headset, you're able to go and automatically have the VV app downloaded?
Yeah, they could totally do stuff like that, right? Yeah. So
I wonder if they would have that with, because I mean, Apple would probably still want to keep. I mean, this is a cash cow, and you have, Apple and Google no longer getting that 30% from them.
Exclusivity that they've enjoyed for a long time, where they get that huge fee, right?
God, millions of dollars.
But they still get that fee if you buy from your phone or your iPad rather than the thing. And sometimes out of convenience, I need to add like 20 gems in. I do, but I don't buy larger amounts through that anymore. I've had access to the actual web app for like 3.5 weeks now.
Yeah.
So, Pretty good.
I still haven't even tried it yet. I just because I haven't needed to buy anything. Or the one that I had a couple hundred gems in the account and I got stitched. So next time I do buy something, it will be via the web app. What's been your most exciting piece of news recently? Was it KYC? Is it MTL? Is it web app?
Really, the thing that I'm most bullish on that they've done in the past 6 months is Vader.
Yeah.
And like people are like, oh, in MTL, that's just something that's going to happen. And it's just part of the growth. I'm looking for the IP that'll be worth massive money in like 10 years, right? So those things were Spider-Man that came out last year, Darth Vader. I think Thor was a little bit disappointed with the graphics, a lot disappointed with the graphics of Thor, but Captain America, they did a superb job on with the secret rare. It's amazing. Honestly, the Jurassic Park, I don't know that Jurassic Park has like the love that Marvel does, but the level of detail on like it's an ultra rare, right? The highest T-Rex.
Yeah, it's got the scar on there and everything, showing the spikes that it's had. Oh, so good.
Absolutely amazing. So I haven't yet played around with, I can't wait till we can really use that on our computer and be able to play with it, because I don't have the patience to load up a whole bunch of things within my vault to place them just right. And I'm a little bit clumsy in the vault as far as placing them, but I look forward to being able to play with those kind of things and create some cool art the way many people do, right? The amount of patience that they have to set up just right is incredible.
That's such a skill. That is such a cool skill.
I love seeing some of the stuff they've done, but I'm really excited about Darth Vader. A friend of mine talked me into looking at toy collectibles like 15 years ago. And I was like, toys? And he's like, do you realize how much these appreciate? I was like, clearly I don't. But I've always had a passion for things that go up drastically in value, right? And so I said, well, what do they do? And he's like, take Star Wars Legos, for example. There's the highest appreciating toy out there. And I was like, really? And I was like, well, what about like a Yoda that you have to put all the pieces together? He's like, no, not that. I'm talking about the vehicles with the figurines. And so as I looked into it, like, so he's right. Like there's a Millennium Falcon that used to sell for $400 that after they sold out of that about 3 years later is going for $8,000 to $10,000 on eBay. And then they released a bigger version not too long ago that sold. I don't think you can really get it anymore. It just sold out. So and it was selling for $800 in the stores. What it's going to go for, I don't know. But the figurines that did the best were Boba Fett and then Darth Vader, right?
Yeah.
Those ones. So Darth Vader is an IP that like just has this amazing nostalgic coolness to it that people will pay really high dollars for. And so, unfortunately, gosh, common and uncommons have gotten a lot more expensive. I did pick up a couple ultra rares because I didn't get one on the drop. Of course, Dr. Stuff got an ultra rare on the drop. Man, I'm just like, my luck has been terrible for the longest while. And so I had to buy two and I had to pay a lot for them. But I couldn't not get some of those. But I didn't get as many common and uncommons as I really wanted to, because I think Vader is one of the best IP drops that they've done in a long, long time.
Yeah, he's great. I was talking with Dino Lang, and I didn't know. So I don't know if you've seen Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett on Disney Plus, but they have Boba Fett's ship, which we all know as the Slave One. And I guess Disney like retconned the ship, or they retconned the name. And it's just being called Boba Fett's ship, and it's not called Slave One anymore. And I was like, what? I was like triggered. I was like, you cancel my Boba Fett? And apparently what happened is like after they did that, which they did it some time ago, everyone went to like Amazon, everyone went to the toy store, and they all bought the things that said Slave One on it because they were discontinued. And apparently that's like a big, huge thing right now. It's a huge absolute.
I got one of the Slave Ones, like the big ones, right? The $200 ones. I think about two of those.
Nice. I don't know what they're going for.
Man, just the inability to use language, right? I don't think we should erase language because it helps us realize where we've been. And so don't just retcon it. But there's people who disagree with me on that. There's a lot of people who disagree with me on that. And when you own the IP, you get to make whatever decisions you want.
Yeah, this wasn't a Lego one, but an ILM's original screen-matched Red Leader X-Wing miniature sold for a whopping $2.3 million at Prop Store's live auction.
Wow.
It's insane. Star Wars is so good, man. I love that stuff. I don't know what. So, David said that we're going to have a big announcement at San Diego Comic-Con, or he said next month, but it would make sense that they would go and announce it at San Diego Comic-Con, where a lot of big things are announced. What do you hope to come, and then what do you think is probably going to come?
I don't know. Well, what do I hope comes? I'm still waiting for big IP to drop. So Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I doubt that's what the announcement is, but can I hope that that's what it is? Yeah, because VV still cheap, right? I mean, how blessed are we that you could buy like Darth Vader for common if you didn't get one on the drop for like, we're able to get it for like $100, and then it went to 200 gems. So probably pull back, and maybe if we're really lucky, it'll pull back to back near where it was, and maybe that's gone for forever. But while things are down is when I love for the best IP to come up so that you're able to buy multiples. The reason I like multiples is so that you're able to take some profits without like not having one, because that's the worst.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing about buying secret rares, right? Is do you have enough funds to get two of them? Because if you're buying it for an investment, are you really ever going to sell that one that you've got? Maybe not. If you do, then you'll always miss it, right? So that's the nice part about the commons is you can buy a bunch of them and then like take some profits when it does really, really well.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to sell the commons also. I mean, if you have a common Vader, only needs a couple $100 as opposed to a couple thousand for the ultra rare.
Yeah,
you said that my partner statue and my Fantastic Four #1 secret rare. I don't know. I always say like, yeah, when they get to like, if we're still down here in the OMI price and partners get that back up to like not even all-time highs of 50K, 40K or 35K, I'd probably sell it for more OMI at that point. I think that'd probably be the best thing to do. But there'll be a bunch of arbitrage opportunities once we have OMI to NFT, and let's say the NFT is the moon, but OMI's down here. Okay, we'll sell the NFTs for a bunch of OMI as OMI catches up, do vice versa. Are you planning to do something like that? Or are you just like, that's too much mental headspace, too much stress, I'm just going to buy and hold?
Yeah. So I'm looking for much higher prices than anything we're close to now. In January, I did take some profits on some things, right? I'd picked up a bunch of Marvel ones for $3 or $4 or $5 for the commons. And unfortunately, I forgot to keep checking the app every day because I was sweeping the floor of everything that was under like mint 30,000.
Yeah.
And so it's just, or maybe it was around 22,000 and below. And so I forgot to keep checking. So I ended up with like 35 of them, and I sold at like 10 of them because they were going for $600 and $700 a piece, or gems a piece. So, a lot of my stuff I'm holding for much higher prices because we don't know that this will happen. It's still at risk. But what you're hoping is VV continues because it has been doing this to cement itself in history as like the premier collectibles NFT app, right? With the best IP. And if they continue to cement themselves in history through these big partnerships and say that Disney's really enjoying it, imagine Disney's like, you know what? Let's just throw some efforts. Let's start marketing VV because we make a whole bunch every time these change hands, and throwing more utility behind it. And then some other partners do that too. And they start promoting it because, man, they don't even have to develop these things. And they are able to get great IP exposure. And the biggest thing that they love is making money every time one is traded. Because right now, say they put out a bunch of toys. Every time those toys get traded on the resale market, they make no part of that. But these collectibles, they're like, sweet, we make 6% every time they trade. And the question on their mind should be, how do we drive these prices up by throwing some weight behind it so people want these so that we can make 6% on every single trade? But then they're trading for like $1 million a piece.
Yeah.
Some of their bigger IPs. So,
and I also think that they probably could do maybe something's written in the contracts. They can get maybe 1% or 0.5% of the rent value if we're renting them out. But if we were talking about the 6%, DC just had renegotiated with them saying, hey, now every time it sells, we get 6%. So I think DC Comics might come to us at some point now that they have that 6%. Would make sense.
Yeah, I think they will, right? And they're probably feeling like they're missing out having all these Marvel releases, which is pushing probably a new adoption of people buying the physical comics. Too, as people that have been mostly interested in the NFTs. I mean, I bought my first digital or my actual first real comics at the DC Cals event.
We did.
Right?
We did good.
Bunch too. We like took like a big percentage of the total supply. There was only like 500 of them minted. So Randy and I are like, we're going big. So
got 5% each.
Yeah. So bought a bunch of those and trying to get them home safely, right? Yeah, I'll have to check them and make sure. Probably the ones in the far corners, like 1 or 2 of them probably got dinged, but oh well. I did end up buying 40 of them.
Oh yeah, you got more. I forgot. You did get more.
Bought some more when they were selling so fast. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, should have got some.
The downside is they're so hard to like give away or whatever, because then you got to pay for shipping and you got to package really well, or even like sell you know, compared to digitals. But I imagine Marvel is getting kind of a revival of interest from this new category that hasn't been interested in actual physical comics at buying some, and DC's not been participating in that to a large degree, that maybe they're like, I want in, especially with the renegotiation.
Yeah, I'm almost positive that they would have something like that. I mean, I had a bunch of friends that have never, or at least hadn't collected in years, and they're not just buying normal comics; they're buying the graded comics of like kind of the grails. Now, granted, they're buying them at like CGC 2.0s. They're not spending hundreds of thousands, but you know, I have got a Bane statue back there. We got Monster Hill that has a bunch of Todds. Yeah, it's a lot of really interesting things. And then, so something that I did want to ask you about, I guess, to kind of put us on defense a little bit. What do you think some of the biggest risks are to the OMI token? Like, do you think that maybe from the rumors that spread a couple months ago that VV is in danger of being bought out? And if they do get bought out, what happens to the token? Do you think it's something like maybe the VVverse is not a hit and suddenly nobody wants to spend the OMI token on land because they don't like the VVverse?
Yeah, that's always some risk. The biggest risk, I would say, is it changing hands to they sell out, right? Because the two people steering the ship right now, like I feel like my ability to trust them is way, way high. Like I feel very confident in who they are. Their integrity is top notch. And David Yu is a huge collector, right? So he gets it. Like, you couldn't have a better person involved with the direction of this. And so, though he's not so much a crypto person, he's a collector. I feel like that utility coming on board is great. Now, the problem with tokens is that their utility can be wiped away in a change. And then it's not like you have a stake on the share of the company with a token. You know, it's risky. And so, like BNB, I have to give it to CZ at Binance, has continued to give it use cases to the BNB token, which has made the BNB token. Like, imagine at the beginning of the when the bear market was starting, and crypto was at its all-time highs, and you bought BNB at $6, and now it was recently trading at 600. I think it's around 300 now.
My God,
so that's like, and so he's continued to give it utility, right, and give value there. So I feel like with who's at the helm that they won't leave us high and dry. There's always a risk if they sell out and some corporation buys it, and the corporation, sometimes publicly traded, they're like, well, we got to take care of our shareholders, not necessarily the token holder for this company that's existing. So that was one of my big fears, and so far they haven't sold out. I hope that they stay strong with that, because they're going to see some really big offers, and I'm sure they've already seen a number of them.
Yeah, I could imagine as well. I mean, when talking to people that work at Disney, like, hey, Disney likes to buy everything. Wouldn't be surprised if they put an offer. And I was like, well, I mean, I think that the danger would come only after they roll out MTL and have KYC. I don't think Disney would want them if they have, this many issues that they have to overcome that they've been having for the last year. They had a bunch of bots. Probably wouldn't be good. But yeah, I'll definitely see where the token goes and see. I'd be so curious to see if there's just some like crazy, not even like a major company, just some random billionaire. It's like, you know what, I want it. I want the whole thing. Buy out the tokens. That might be something too, where that might have to go into that's like, okay, you could buy us out, but you'd have to buy the tokens as well. Or they could even just hang on to the tokens and still work for somebody else while they sell the company, but they still work for them. They keep them on like the board or whatever. I think that'd be pretty interesting also.
Yeah, that there is the possibility of that. And, I feel like the founders. They have our backs, but that's always a risk, right? If they ever did sell, and the offers probably they would be seeing now is in the lower billions of dollars, but as they continue to grow, those offers might get juicier and juicier to be 10 or 100 times that. And so they're probably open at some point to selling, but hopefully they're always really careful. And I feel like they would be. And I don't know them yet. I haven't had an actual conversation with them. But I read, my job was to read people in strategic negotiations for years. And so my read on them is that I can trust them, and they think about that, because it comes down to integrity. When they made promises that, hey, invest in this OMI token. I remember the promises they made when they were doing their pre-sale, because I invested in their pre-sale. And so I just don't feel like they're going to leave us high and dry. And I'm probably right on that, realizing that I might be wrong.
Yeah, same. Agreed. My hope is with them. My future's with them. More than 90% of my net worth is in Ecomi. Riley Smith asked, VV could be put out and the buyer still keeps. Oh, that wasn't the one I was looking at. Sorry. Mac Genzi says, can't wait for OUP 2.0. Any speculations on something we might be surprised by? Keep it up. Love your content. For OMI utility, I mean, we know like the OMI to NFT, and Puddin Cheeks and has teased OMI to gem, and then we have obviously OMI to land. But anything else that you think we might be able to do? Like, do you think Disney would ever say like, yeah, you could use the OMI token here?
I would love to see additional, like, obviously I didn't expect the kind of games that are coming forward and they're going to use the OMI token. OMI changing to be on Immutable X was an amazingly brilliant move. And thank goodness they did that. It was a lot of pain for them to do it, but it opens up the possibilities of what could be done in the future, because I think Immutable X is the place to go. Immutable X, just a sec. I need to respond to somebody. I had to deliver on a promise I made to them, and so I'm just taking care of that promise real quick.
Surely, I will keep it going for a little while. So we can move around by still keep leadership. Yeah, that's always possible, Riley, that they could do that. I don't know if because they are collectors and they are business owners themselves multiple times over. I don't know if they would really ever want to work for someone else, because once you're leading your own ship and you're captain, you don't want to become a seaman again and take orders from someone else. But yeah. So OMI utility, other stuff that you think could happen? Yeah.
So we'll see. They could, in the VV-verse, continue to find ways, just like the BNB token did, of giving itself utility. And so hopefully they find ways to give it utility. And I feel like with the two co-founders at the helm, that they'll do that. I do think they really enjoy the community that they're building and the relationship they have with the community. And so, yeah, at some point, maybe they are willing to sell parts of the company, and who can blame them, right? They've developed something worth billions of dollars. And wouldn't it be fun to have like the things that billions of dollars can buy, and the freedom of choice that you have with that? And I would wish that for them. Hope they always, because I just love who's steering the ship now, that if it ever changed to somebody else running the ship, that they have like the same level of commitment and integrity that these two have. Because I feel like I can, what they say, that doesn't mean there aren't delays, there aren't things that don't come out like they think. That's just normal, like software development. I feel like the trust with these guys is super high.
Yeah, I feel it with them as well. They're just like genuinely good people. And part of what I do, when researching a company, when looking to buy, is finding other interviews of them and seeing how they react in every single one, seeing how they act in response to certain questions, if they have any tells. And for the most part, they just seem like genuinely real people. And having met them as well, just kind of reaffirms that fact. So I'm pretty cool there. We do have Whippets Run saying, feels like OMI is getting bigger even at this price. I don't know. It feels like before/after land sales, it skyrockets. I mean, we haven't had any land sales yet, but yeah, at this price, we could burn if not even 100, even if 80% of the OMI that was spent on land gets burned, Jesus, it'd be so huge.
It'd be huge. They've delivered pretty well. I'd really be interested to see what their vision for the VV-verse is. I really can't say I know anything about that in depth of what it is. I've heard some ideas for it bantered about, but like, we'll see what level. I mean, honestly, if they took like a Grand Theft Auto type thing, like have so much money, buy the rights from Grand Theft Auto, be like, hey, can we make them, we'll label it something else, but then throw the VV verse within that. That'd be awesome. Who knows what that's going to look like, right? And so I'm just holding out. I do tend to like land on the blockchain as far as games are concerned. Like I made a ton of money off of Axie Infinity's land. And I do think on certain things that land will be very, very valuable in the future. If it's a game that ends up having lots and lots of play, the VVverse, I hope there's some greater utility, right? Because if it's just like, hey, show my collection, well, then they don't need this big VVverse. They just need you to have a room.
Yeah, the updated showroom.
Yeah, an updated showroom and be able to have different showrooms, right? But if they have some bigger thing that you can play and a game that you could play, and maybe they should talk to Rockstar Games and be like, let's do a joint venture here. And possibly, honestly, imagine when their token goes crazy and they're in the hype cycle again. They could have that conversation. Rockstar, they would have Rockstar Gaming's full attention with that.
Is Rockstar independent?
That is a great question. I don't know. I don't know who owns them.
I'm trying to see how much they're worth.
It's the name of the gaming company that owns it. Who they have to answer to, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was because they're not publicly traded, right? I'm trying to see how much they're worth. And is because if we have a net worth, there's somebody that said Rockstar Games net worth is from. Well, never mind. That's from trillions of dollars is definitely not right.
Looks like it's on the NASDAQ.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we take a look at the market cap. I would love to see what I asked David, and I'm pretty sure they'll do at some point is buying other companies. Now, Rockstar is probably a multi-billion-dollar company, like several billion. I don't know if they'd be able to buy them, but I really would like it if they would buy something that is in the lower to mid-billions at some point as their market cap gets higher.
Yeah, we're going to see the mergers and acquisitions coming up in the next 8 years, and there'll be a ton of them, like kind of what the internet saw, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to be a lot of fun. There will be like, we're still early days. And I know people think now they're like, I wish I'd gotten in 2017. And I wish you did too. I wish, those people that are thinking that, I wish we had all gotten in 2012 before the 2013 pump. But the truth is you're here now, and there will be millions and hundreds of millions of people that would die to be able to rewind time and get started like you are here today. And I see a lot of my audience members here today, like Abe and some of my favorites, right? So, hey, guys, thanks so much for joining us. I'm sure you're already subscribed to Randy, and that's why you found this. But obviously, and J Solo 9, thanks, guys, for joining us. Love Randy's stuff. I watch it all the time myself. So,
yeah. And I know both of us have some things to do, so I'll get one last question in. The Fed does raise another 75 basis points in July. Do you think OMI goes down? And I guess it could even go to 100 basis points.
Probably go down. Like the utility still isn't there, and even when you can withdraw money from it, I do still think there will be some exodus of funds. There's already been an exodus of a lot of funds. So I think because it's taken so long, there will actually be a smaller exodus because many people have cashed out just through secondary market transactions. And so some of the people looking to get money for gems have already done that.
That's a good point.
That part will be muted from what it would be, but still there will be some kind of exodus probably. And if there is especially if there's 100 basis points increase on rates, that'll kind of like shake people up in the whole crypto market, as well as the stock market will crash some more, and probably OMI with it. When people sell, sometimes they hit the sell button on everything. So I would imagine it drops down even lower, and then
if you're gifted 20K randomly, would you get it tomorrow, would you buy tomorrow, or would you be like, hey, this has gone up about 40, almost 50% in the last, like 2 weeks. I should probably wait till it, retraces a little bit. Or do you think it doesn't matter? It's under 0.002.
Yeah, I mean, probably I would tier that, and I'd buy about 5,000 right now.
Yeah,
I would hold 15,000 to hopefully it makes this little W pattern and it comes down some more, if not even more savagely. Like it still could, even though it broke out of this really steep trend it was in. It still could continue a slower trend down. And so maybe we're not at the bottom and there's more to come, but it is so cheap now that it's like, I wouldn't miss the opportunity just to buy, you know, with a fourth of it, some now, and then buy some more later.
That's a good point. All right, cool beans. Well, thank you for coming on the channel. Everyone say bye-bye to Dashi. Bye-bye, Dashi. And I'll just hang back for like 30 seconds after we end.
Sounds great.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. It was good. Bye-bye. Yeah.